Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Yud Dalid Amid Beis. Mishnah Yud Dalid Amid Beis. Today's daf is Daf Kesuvos. Okay, so again we've been machloikis between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer versus Rabbi Yeshua. The Rabbi Bar Shema, Bar Yadif, Rabbi Yeshua going with the Chazaka. We saw it with Yatain of Nanasti. We saw it with Yatain of Mukases. We saw it with just B'nichud. We saw the machloikis in pregnancy, and continuing on. I'm Rabbi Yossi. My tinoikes she yordo lemalas mayim min ha'ayin. There was an incident where a tinoikes, a girl, she went down to fill up water from a well, nasa, and a man forced himself upon her, she was a nisa. I'm Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Imroiv anshi ha'ir. If most of the people of the city, Masiyan the kahuna, are kosher people that you're able to marry to the kahuna, Harizu Tinasi the kahuna, she can marry to the kahuna. So tonight's shir is based upon the concept of Raiv. We had the concept of Chazaka, we had Migu, and now the concept of Raiv. So Bez Hashem, when we get to the Gemara, we'll give a little overview. So we want to go after Raiv. So here she was an Anusa, Anusa that is a psul. If it's someone's puzzle, that then you could not marry a kain. If she's a penuya and she's an anusa, she could marry a kain. An eshes ish that's an anusa would have to get divorced from the kain. But a penuya, a free girl, that's what pana means. She's free, right? Even though she's an anusa, as long as she's not a zaina, because she was neschalo through a bia. Again, by now this is a yavamis, aleph base. We know this by heart. So that shiloh over here is who was with this woman. Was it someone that is going to make her into a zaina at the pasta from the kahuna or not? And we're going after Roiv. We're going to use Roiv as a brahmana. If the majority of the city that was near her is a Yisraelim, then we'll say she's kosher kahuna, and if not, not. So Amalei Rav Rab Nachman. Rabbi Yochanan Nuri Dama Kiman. Who is Rabbi Yochanan Nuri going according to? Again, we have a machlokas between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua. Who is Rabbi Yochanan Nuri going according to? Ik Rabbi Gamliel. If it's Rabbi Gamliel, he would say even Roiv Psulim would be kasha, because he says you keep chazaka, right? And the woman was that what she was mutter to the kuna. Again, you go after the chazaka. So it doesn't say here, guys, what she's tiny. It doesn't say here what she's tiny. Who the person was. Then when after Roiv, if she would have tiny, that would have been the previous thing, right? So we want to know, let Rabbi Gamliel go after the chazaka, and she was permitted, and Rabbi Gamliel goes after the chazaka.
She doesn't know who the person is.
How do you know? How do you know?
I don't know. That's the case in the Mishnah. How much more information than that?
Well, you have. She was. Well, she was an anusa, but you don't know. Maybe again. You don't know. Maybe she knew. Maybe she knew who the person was. You could tell a guy. It was a black man. Would you know that?
Unfortunately.
Okay, so I'm saying there's ways of telling whether it was a yid or a guy. Again, you're bringing out the worst of me. No. Anyway, so you go after the chazaka. The chazaka apparently would say that she was permitted before and she's permitted now. So why do you need the roiv to go with machriya, even roiv psulim? And ikrebi at Yeshua, afilu b'roiv k'shemi nami pasol. And if you go according to Yeshua, Yeshua said again, Yeshua said that right away that she loses everything. We said, well, behind closed doors, we're going to be chayish that it's a mamzer and a sin. So again, right away, the manavshach, who is what do you need roiv ksherim? Light Rav Gamliel, you don't need ksherim, and light Rabbi Yeshua, you don't even go after Rav. So l'chayra, who is he going according to? Now I don't. It's not so schwer really. Rabbi Yochanan is a Tana. He can have his own opinion, right? But in svara l'chayra, it should be one way or the other. That's really what the Gemara is asking. In other words, it's not that he can't argue with them. Rabbi Yochanan is a Tana. He's in the Mishnah. He's a Tana. He can argue with Rabbi Yeshua. He can argue with Rabbi Gamliel. He's entitled to his own opinion. But mashma, the svara over here would be what? Would be that it must be in conjunction, since we didn't meet anybody in the last three Mishnayos who heard that there is no third opinion. There seems to be two opinions over here. So it says the Gemara, Amalei Hachi Am Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Guys, Loyum is going to Rabbi Yeshua. It's going to come to Yeshua. But listen now listen to why. The reason it's going to be Yeshua, we're on Tesvav Amud Aleph, the top line. We're speaking, when did the violent event take place? It was in the wagons of Sipuri, meaning it was the time of a fear, a time of many people coming from the outside. So Uchadravami, Dam Ravami, V'husha Hoisa Siya Shel B'nei Adam Ksherin Oiverisham. That there was a people who would pass through this time would be what? Would be Ksherim. So guys, what do you have now? You have a double roiv. Now you have a double roiv. Roiv of the city and roiv of the people coming for the fear. Rabbi Yeshua would be moida by a double roiv. That what? You go after roiv. By a double roiv, you go after roiv and we say she's kosher l'kahuna. So whoever was ma'anasa, based upon a double roiv, one, the people of the city, two, the majority of the people coming, that would go ahead and mata. Rabbi Yanai, Neveles Bekranis Kasher L'Kahuna. If she had relations in a wagon, no, it doesn't mean in a wagon. El Neveles B'Shas Kronas, in the time of the wagons, meaning the time of the fear, Kshera L'Kahuna. Then she would be kosher to the kahuna. So this is a double roiv, and since you have a double roiv over here, you'll be believed. Now, there's a very famous machloikis. There's two days of roiv that we're familiar with. We saw it in Yivamis. It's the time of the shir is in Chulin, in the beginning of Chulin, is the butcher shops, guys. Okay, here's the two din. There's 10 butcher shops in a city. 9 of the butcher shops sell nevela, and one of the butcher shops sells what? Sells kosher meat. If you find the suffix, it arises in the butcher shop itself. We say a chiddush nifla. We say that kol kivua kemechsal mechzadami, and we'll say that there's no roiv to machriya. So, in the case of 9 kosher butcher shops and 1 tray for butcher shop, you won't be able to eat it. If it was 9, okay, now if it's you find it in the street, and you have 9 kosher butcher shops and 1 tray butcher shop, we'll go after roiv, and we'll say kol de parish meruba parish. So using that concept over here, let's see how it applies to the case of this girl who had been an anusa. So it says, Aval Hirish. I don't think I muted everybody. Okay. Aval Pirish Echem Sipuri, if from the people in Sipuri, that's where the place took place. Ubal Havat Shtuki, because then you go after Roiv. In other words, the Vlad would be a Shtuki, what? Kiha, the Chiyasa of Dimi Amaziri, Amrchanina, Vemilo Amriziri, Amrchanina, Holchan Acharoiv Eir, Ve'ain Holchan Acharoiv Siya. You go after the majority of the city, you don't go after the majority of the people coming in. Fregme Kapilaya, Hani Naidi, Vahani Kavi. It makes sense to go after Roiv of the people that are traveling than Roiv of the people in the city. Roiv of the people that's traveling are movables. They're like parish, where most of the people in the city is speaking what? Where it's kavua. Ella holchen acharoiv for ear. When? For who the ikaroiv siya. When do you go after the majority of the city? Provided there is what? Roiv siya bahada, there's a majority of people coming in from the outside. However, the ain holchen acharoiv ear grey dasa. You don't go after roiv of the city alone. Lo yach the roiv siya grey dasa. And you don't go after roiv of the caravan alone, the people traveling. My timer, gezei roiv siya at the roiv ear. Now, the roiv siya, you should go after roiv. Why? Because it's 90 guys, it's moving. So why don't you go over roiv of the travelers? Because if we go after roiv of the travelers, you may come to go over roiv of the city, which was kavua. So it's a gezerah. Really, you should go after roiv of the people traveling. Why? Because it's like finding the meat in the street. However, we won't go ahead and go after that. You know why? Because if we do, you may come to go after roiv of the ear, and that suffix is a kavua, and a kavua is called kavua mechzadami. Now, l'chayra, it doesn't make any sense. If the person separated from the city and that took place outside the city, It's also called the parish Meruba parish. It's not kavua. It wasn't like the girl was in the city. We'll see in a second, right? Says the Gemara. Either cause the inu legaba. 1 second. If the person from the city goes to her, called the parish Meruba parish. So in other words, guys, it doesn't make a difference if there's two movements over here: the people traveling and the person traveling outside the city. So why would you think if it's in the city that it's a kavua? L'chayra, we're going to say who is the person that was with her? The person who came out of the city, and therefore you're same to say called the parish Meruba parish. Says the Merlait Sricha the Ka'az le'iu legabayu. She went to him. Now the ma'aser that happened, she went to him, and the Havile kavua, it's a kavua. Any kavua where any time the suffix takes place in a makom kavua, the halacha is you don't go after roiv, guys. You don't go after roiv. Now, okay. So this thing, the shaila, I never understood really. I could wait till the end of the daf, but I want to do it now. What makes sense, guys? The chiddush that you go after roiv or kol kavua? Go after roiv. How do you know that? The Torah says, achrei rabim lahatos. When you have a court case, how do you decide a court case? You go after the majority. Majority wins. Achrei rabim, you go after the majority lahatos, and inclines the halacha. That's a pasuk in the Torah. You go after roiv. There is a pasuk to teach me kavua kavua. That pasuk we're going to see at the end of daf. If you go ahead and you have 9 Jews and 1 guy, and you take a rock and you throw it in, and you kill somebody, and you kill a Jew, right? You should be chayiv, right? Because the majority of the people in there were Jewish. But since it was kavua, and then since it rose kavua, you're even makel to the extent that you don't go after roiv. So even though there was only 1 guy in the mixture of people, you'd be off the hook. Be they Adam, you'd be off the hook. So we have a pasuk that teaches me that kol kavua is kametz amechza, because you have 2 sides. Now, apparently, it seems to be a bit contradictory. If you go after roiv, you should always go after roiv, and if you say kol kavua, then you should never go after roiv. So the case of the butcher shop, we all know it. I mean, even unlearned people know the case of the butcher shop. It's one of the more famous dictums in all of the Gemara. That 9 butcher shops in the city, 10 butcher shops, 9 sell kosher meat, 1 sells treifa meat. You find it in the street, and it's kosher. You find it in. So what? So when I have these questions, my go-to guy is someone named Yehonason Stern. Okay, so Yehonason Stern says, I say Yehonason, I get him on the phone. I say, Yehonason, do you ever hear a pshat in this? He goes, I spoke to Hillel Ruvel, who said over b'shem Rosh Hashiva, who said over b'shem of Shimon Shkop. So what you're hearing now is the Messiah from my Rebbe, who heard it from his Rebbe, from Shimon. That it's a super lumdus, guys. I want you to chew on it. It's a super lumdus. And of the difference between a kol kavua and what? And right. Because there's a difference between what is it or where it's from. In other words, how do you define the suffix? To define something what it is, or to define the place where it came from. If the definition of what it is, it's called kavua. If the definition where it's from, it's roiv. In other words, there's different sfekas over here. In one case, I want to know what. Let's go to the butcher shop. What do I want to know? I want to know what. I want to know what it is. What is it? I want to know what it is. I want to know whether it's kosher meat or not kosher meat. When you find it in the street, there is an other factor there. Where did it come from? It's in the butcher shop. I know it's in the butcher shop. I have no question where it came from. I know what it is. I know where it came from. It came from a butcher shop. I don't know what it is. When you don't know what something is, then you apply the concept of kol kavua. When the suffix is where it came from, like when you find it in the street because it's not in the butcher shop, then you go after roiv. And you can. I thought about it. You fit it in different cases. So let's say, what's a shiloh over here? You have this girl. This girl is over here. Someone came and was with her. Where did he come from? Where did he come from? Good. Where did he come from? That's what you want to know. What? So therefore, you can go after Rav. On the what? Again, so on the other hand, let's say she came to the city. You came to the city, and in the city there is right. What do you want to know? Who is it? Who is it? So one case you want to know where you came from, and the other place you want to know who is it. When it's the who is it, then you go after mechza, kol kavua. Where it came from, then you go after Rav. It's a very only Rav Shimon could go ahead. It's a tifa super lumdus, but it's the first time I've heard any attempt to go ahead. And what we take for granted, there's a bit of a hesper to this. I think it's I spoke to once that he had no shot. He had nothing. I said this. I asked him, did you ever hear anything? He goes, no yeshivish stuff. That's he goes above my pay grade. But he said,
what you just said before about a rock. So we threw a rock.
Okay, let's
But once you hear it, it's beautiful because it's so simple.
Yeah, I'll get to it a little later. Again, I just introduced it because okay, you get to it. It breaks it down. It breaks it down, but it makes things a little more digestible instead of just throwing something out. So the question is like, why does he need a double roiv for? What? No, it's once Rabbi Yeshua is going after roiv. Why do you need a double roiv? It's kind of like. So I think the Gemara is going to ask that, but it's like a little introductory to the whole idea. So let's see what we got. Okay, so now says the Gemara. So now it's speaking where she went to him. Davile kavua. V'amar b'zeira kol kavua k'mechzal mechzadami. Frag the Gemara umi bo'in in trei ruba. In order to mata, once you're going after roiv mehecha teisa, you need a double roiv, guys. Where do you need a double roiv from? But Tanya. Tisha chanuyas kulam mechuris basa shluta. 9 butcher shops sell kosher meat. V'achas mecheres basa nevela, and one sells treifa meat. V'lokach me'achas mehem ve'eni yodeya my zeh mehen lokach sveiko yasa. You don't know what it is, right? You don't know where it was bought from. You don't know what it is. Asa uvenimsa nimsa. You don't know what it is. You know where it came from. Holachacha roiv. Now, what do you see, guys? What do you see? You only need one roiv. The kasha. Why do you need a double roiv? If the source of roiv is acher rab lahata, there's no double roiv. And the paradigm is what? It's the case of the butcher shop. Where do you need a double roiv? There's only one roiv over here. What's the one roiv? There's only the majority of the butcher stores in the shtat sells kosher meat. One roiv. V'chitema b'she'ein delasais medina ne'ulois. And if you're going to tell me what, that maybe there's a second roiv, that the doors of the city are open, and we'll go after all the yidden that come in with their meat. So you got a double roiv. You got a roiv of the butcher shops in the city, and a roiv of the people coming, just like by the fair, you had a roiv of the people in the city, and you had roiv of people coming, it's a tzipuri to the fair. Good. And therefore what? That's where you need a double roiv. Says the Gemara, no. The chitem m'shein dasas medina delnus to the kasi lei ruba malma. V'am Reb Zeira afa pishad lasas medina nulais. Says Reb Zeira, this halacha is even when the doors of the Medina are closed. So what do you see, guys? One roiv. Kasha on Rabbi Yeshua. How do you need double roiv? And for the Gemara, Mayla asa b'yochsen. You're right. If it was any other roiv, we wondered to marry into the kahuna. That we're not going to have to write. It could be machmir, a different level. We had that earlier. That Maila b'Yuchsin, Rabbi Yochanan said he was earlier. Rabbi Shmuel Levi, he said earlier that excuse me. Earlier in Gemara we had the same concept of being Maila b'Yuchsin. So again, that's what we have. We have a girl who unfortunately had been an anusa. What was the yichus? Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said what? Yochanan Nuri said it. We believe that she's still kasher l'kahuna. Fred the Gemara and Manav Shach. Why? Because we go after Rav Ksherim. The Manav Shach. If it's Rabbi Gamliel, you don't need Ksherim. You don't even need Rav. You go after the Chazaka. She was in the Chazaka with the kahuna. If it's Rabbi Yeshua, it doesn't help because it doesn't help. He doesn't believe it. But he was machmer even by stamazai. You were behind closed doors with a woman. He says no. It's Rabbi Yeshua and a double Rav. Why? If it's a double Rav, we just went through the sugya of Rav that you only need one Rav, right? And for the Gemara, you know what we're speaking about? We're speaking about Maila b'Yochsin. You need a double roiv because of the Maila we make that you marry into Guna. Gufa.
Les, I'm sorry, but I don't understand it. I don't understand. The Rive is a matter of numbers. So you have something twice as much as more than someone that's something else. Say that that's not good enough. You need 5 times as much. I mean, it's
So you see,
I don't understand the whole thing, a double Rive.
you see your premise is wrong. You see your premise is wrong. Your premise of its numbers is wrong. It's the Rive is not, it's not just a majority. It's not just a maximum amount of numbers. In other words, if it was 9 butcher shops, if it was 100 butcher shops, let's say it's 100 butcher shops and you're going to find 1,000 butcher shops and you're going to find kosher meat and one is going to say kol kavur, right? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's because of
Rive,
the circumstance.
it seems to be there's 2 situations of a majority, not number game, but 2 situations of a majority. Like the majority of the people in the city and the second majority of people coming. Majority of people in the city, and if the doors are open, other meat coming in.
Different label of Rive?
Yeah, that's two rives. You say
2 different types of Rive.
2 situations of majority. It's not a numbers game. No, you'd be wrong. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but obviously your premise is wrong. Your premise is wrong. Again, it's not you're increasing the rive, you're creating another rive, Meir. You're learning pshat, you're increasing the rive. That's not pshat. You're creating a second rive.
Okay.
No, you okay, but you're not buying it.
I hear it.
No, because all you have to hear it again. I'll be masbid again. I'm giving you the yeshiva. No yeshiva shalosh. And watch. It's not pshat if you have 9 butcher shops. You have, let's say, 1,000 pounds of meat, and now you open the doors of the gate. You're going to get 10,000 pounds more. So there's more of a chance. It's not a din of chance. There's a din of rive. In other words, as minimal as the rive is, 2 to 1 is a rive, Meir.
I know.
So again, 3 to 1 doesn't make it more of a rive. So you see your premise is wrong.
Okay, I was trying to understand why the premise is wrong.
But the answer is that rive is a chalais. I have a rive, and now not only have 1 rive, now I have 2 rives, right? And I guess if there would be another helicopter, maybe there was people flying in the airport, you'd have a 3rd rive. So that there's more. In other words, there's more probability with more rives.
Okay, I think I get it. I think so.
Again, even if you don't, we're going on. Gufa.
There was no doubt about that. I know that.
Okay, May, I'm muting you, May. Okay, so
goodbye.
Yeah. You can't move a video while someone has the hand raised. It just came up on the screen, May. Get your hand down so I can get rid of you. It says now, Gufa. Amr Zera. Amr Zera. Kol kavua kemerza al mechzadami. Any kavua is kemerza al mechzadami. Bein lekula, bein lechumra. Now, guys, whether it's a kula or a chumra. Now, to be machmir is no big spitz, correct? To be makel is always, guys, always to be machmir is no big deal. Anyone can be machmir. It's much bigger chiddush to be makel. So we're going to see. So in our scenario with the 9 butcher shops and the 1 treif, it's a chumrah, because the roiv would say it should be kosher. But you're finding you have 10 butcher shops, the roiv should say it's kosher. We're being machmir. You know what? Since the suffix arose in a place that's said a makom kavua, we're machmir. Okay, says the Gemara. Minole, where do you know this concept from? Minole Rabbi Zeraha. Ilay mitisha chanuyes kula marchus basa shkuta v'achas basa nevela v'lachach me'achas men beni dem ez men lakach sveika yasa v'nimtza halachacha roiv. Says mahasam l'chumra. Nimsa, if you find it in the street, you're going to chumrah. So in other words, there you found it in the store, you're being machmir. That's a chumrah, because really it should be kosher if you go after the roiv. Ella must be, guys. Now we know the shmeina shratzim that are tamei. Shmeina shratzim that are tamei. One of them is called a tzav, and one that's kosher is not kosher, but it's not tamei. When it's dead, is it's tzvarde, is a frog. So you find tisha tzvardim v'sheretz echa b'neihem. You have 10 dead amphibians. 9 of them are not matama, and 1 is. V'naga b'achamehem. You touch one of them. And you don't know which one you touched. Sveikai tame. There, the suffix is tame. If you go after the majority, guys, you would be tahar, because the svardim, 9 svardim are tahar. Says hasam nami l'chumra. This also going l'chumra, right? You're being machmer, saying that you touched the sheretz. Says the Gemara, Ella mitisha shratzim utsvarda echa b'neihem. Guys. 9 shratzim, very, 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 very tummy, right? 9 shrutzim roll tamei, and 1 frog which is not. V'naga be'echmeihem, ve'eni yodeh be'ezhem naga, and you don't know which one you touched. Now, guys, we have a rule. Safik tuma b'shus hayachid sveikai tamei. We learn from Saita. Safik tuma b'shus harabim sveikai tahar. V'naga b'shus hayachid sveikai tamei. B'shus harabim sveikai tahar. So there's your kula, guys. Watch. These are in Rishus Harabim. I got a bin in Rishus Harabim. In the bin are 10 amphibians, 10 dead amphibians. 9 of them are shrutzim. 9 of them are shrutzim, meaning one of the 8 shrutzim that are tamei. 1 of them is tahar. You touch it. Good. And you're in what? And in your now. Why do we say kol kavua k'mechza al mechza? So therefore, we're not going after Roiv. So kol kavua k'mechza al mechza, and where am I? I'm in Mishusha Rabim. You'll be tahar. If you go after Roiv, you'll be tamei. By going after the mechza al mechza, you will be tahar. So therefore, that's the chiddush over here. You'll be tahar. Good. Now, so that's an example of the kula. And here's the pasuk that I brought it in. Umidaraisa minalan. Where is a pasuk that tells me kol kavua k'mechza al mechza? It's such a, it doesn't make any sense, guys. You know, Roiv is a pasuk, Acher Rab Lahatois, and Roiv in Svarah. There's no one here, whether sitting in front of me now or on the computer, who would not hear Roiv as more Svaradic than kol kavua. Meya hears, it's a numbers game. I have 9 Tomei Dicka things over here. What's that? You do the statistics, right? Like statistically, the Jets can't win the Super Bowl. We all know that. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's not. It's not statistically. It's not possible. It's not. Let's go Mets. But however, see, by saying kol kavua k'mechza al mechza dummy, it's unbelievable. Where's the source for that? It says in Umirayis Minalan Amakra. It says by murder. Okay, in Devarim Yates. Let me quote you the pasuk. It says, "V'chiyah ish soini l'reyehu." A guy hates his friend. V'orav loy, and he ambushes him. V'kamalov, and he rises up against him. V'yikahu nefesh v'meis. V'nas alachas ha'aram ha'el. He runs to one of the cities. V'yari miklat before he gets judged. Now it says the orav loy v'kam. Now what is the loy? Now we have machlokas. Now. Amakrav orav loy v'kam alav at sheyiskaven loy. Until he's miskaven for him. Rashi brings the machlokes between. Reb Shimon says, if you look at the first line of Rashi, guys, probably miskaven lahara gezev. You want to kill Shimon and you kill Levi. Hachi darish Reb Shimon b'Sanhedrin. So this pasuk that tells us if you want to be mechaven to kill one person and you kill another person, you're not mechayev. V'aminu hasam rabbanon hachi darish. Now we're picking it up over here, guys. When it says rabbanon, so it's ikka chasam in aseifa. You're picking up in the middle of the conversation. Rashi filled you in on the earlier part of the conversation. That the Chachamim hold, you're not, if you're mechaven to kill one person, you kill another person, you're pata. For Rabbanan Amri, Devei Rabbi Yanai, Yeshiva Rabbi Yanai, prat lezorik even legav. You're throwing a stone into a multitude of people. Okay? You're throwing it into a multitude of people. Now, hechidami. Ilay medika tisha kananim ve'echad Yisrael b'neihem. Let's say there are 9 non-Jews and 1 Jew among them. Why do you need a pasuk to tell me I'm off the hook? But typically, the ruba knanim nenu. In other words, the pasuk tells me to become loy. You have to know the specific individual, correct? So why do I need this pasuk to get me off the hook? Typically, that if you go after roiv, I'm off the hook. Inami palgu palga, and even if you're going to say it's not a roiv, it's 5 and 5. Safik nefashos lahakol. It says v'tzila se'eda. When it comes to capital punishment, we always want to save a guy. So if you had 5 Jews and 5 goyim, you'd also be off the hook. Even without roiv, you get off the hook. So what's this pasuk teaching me? What is this pasuk teaching me? If you throw a stone, become loy. What's it teaching me? Like tzricha de'ika tisha Yisraelim v'knani echad. Your roiv is Jews, and there's 1 guy, and you go ahead and you throw the rock in there and it kills somebody. The Kanani kavua. The Hanani is in a Makan Kavua. He wasn't Pirish. You threw the rock into them. He didn't come out. The Chol Kavua Kamechsa Mechsadami, and here being Makel. Because the halacha of Kavua is going to get you off the hook for murder. So this is where you know the pasuk. This is where you know from the din of kol kavua al mechsa al mechsa. Believe it or not, this is where you know it from. Let's see Rashi, guys. First wide line. Amad Rabbi Yanai prat lezorik even legav letoich chaburas b'nei adam. You're throwing into a chabura, a chevra of people, Knaim of Yisraelim. If you have two Jews that are standing there, Shimon and Levi, they say you're going to kill this person. If you mechavim for one, you get the other. He argues. The Rabbanan argues with Shimon. They say you chayev. That's why he says Rabbanan mishum Sanhedrin hacha. It says Rabbanan. So. It's not so soft. No. So, okay. So they're saying you're going to throw a rock in there, you're going to kill somebody. You're going to kill somebody.
Yeah,
but again, it doesn't make you. Again, there is hasra, or else there's nothing to talk about. So
again,
again, it's 9 o'clock. Says more. Just we're doing the 2 lines to the bottom. What? That, and this is teaching me that kol kavua mechsa. Yeah, Meir, what's your question? Meir, I can't hear you. Not that I'm complaining.
you said before that you're making, like when it comes to killing somebody, how do you know that this is a riot to something where it's just an isser or a mominus or something like that? You said they're explaining that you're.
No, this is Vitzilas Eida. This is a case where you won't be Vitzilas Eida. This is a case where Adarabba. This is a case if you go after Roiv, you won't. Vitzilas Eida would mean like it's half and half. There's a reason there's no Roiv. Where there's a Roiv, there's no. You're not going to go against Jewish law. Vitzilas Eida doesn't say you override the law. If it's Roiv, the law will be you got to kill the guy. This you got to understand, mate. This is not.
I got it.
Al dal paga means that it doesn't say it's not machri either way. You're not machri either way, Vitzilas Eida. However, when you have a law that's machri, you don't say Vitzilas Eida.
Right, I got that.
Okay, good. Says the Gemara. Now, so we have a source, and this is now you had a hesha. You had a question on this?
No, you talked about before. You heard what you introduced this case. I throw a rock into and I had Kavana. There's one guy and 9 Jews. And so when he said that's the message, we talked about.
We are saying kol kavua mechsa mechsa. The suffix arose in the place, right? Because he's kavua. Since he's kavua, you're not going to go after the Rav of the Jews.
Right.
Good. Itmar Rav Chia Barashi Amar Rav halacha Reb Yosi. The halacha is like Reb Yosi in our Mishnah. Now the Mishnah is mashma al Rav Echad. Guys, look back in the Mishnah on the Amar Aleph base. Am Reb Yosi Ma'isa b'tinoikis sheyorda l'malis mayim min ha'ayin v'nenasa Am Reb Yochim Menuri. In Roiv Anshe Ir Masi and Lakuna Harizu Tinasi Lakuna. It's mashma over here. There's only one Roiv. But we introduced the Trey Rub according to Rabbi Yeshua to answer up that Mishnah could be going to Rabbi Yeshua. But Pashit, when Rav Chia Barashi says it over here, the Havamin is there's only one Roiv. So I feel it with one Roiv, you'd be believed. Rav Chanan Barav Amarav Hayrasha. No. You don't believe with one Roiv. It was Hayrasha. It was just for that time there was a Hayra. Master Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah is asking on that Roiv ear that on one Roiv. In other words, that you said the first thing you said the halacha is like Yosi even with one Roiv. We're going to ask on that. Master Rabbi Yirmiyah uliyuchs and loybin and treruba. Remember, but guys, how did we get into 2 Roiv? If one Roiv does the job, so why do Rabbi Yeshua need 2 Roiv? Is only for what? Because the Kahanim. So we're asking over here, Master Rabbi Yirmiyah uliyuchs and loybin and treruba. How can you paskin like Rabbi Yosi? You only got one Roiv. Says the Gemara, Vatanan Amid Beis. Tanan, matzah ba tinaikis mushlach. If you find a child that was abandoned, you're passing by Loyalenu and someone abandoned a child. They had a baby and they abandoned the baby. Imroiv Ayvdei Kechavim. If the majority of the city of Ayvdei Kechavim, Ayvdei Kechavim. Imroiv Yisrael. If the majority of the cities of Yisraelim, Yisrael. Mechza. If there's no Roiv, Yisrael. It's a Yisrael. V'amarav Leishanu El Lachayosai. That we said that it's a Jew that's only l'inyan l'chayosai, that you'd have to support him, right? That we say that if Roiv of the cities are Jews, that you treat them like a Jew, it's only l'inyan support. In other words, you be chayiv to take care of him, to provide food for him, and clothing for him and whatnot. Aval yuchsin, but to marry into the kahuna, if it's a girl, loy. Then you would not allow. Ushmul Amar, Shmuel says, L'fakech alav sagal, Timchal Shabbos, Leilenu, when this child, a wall falls down, you'll be able to Mechal Shabbos to go ahead and get him out of there. So that's the Roiv Yisrael is only regarding this. So no, he's not going to treat him like a full-fledged Jew. In Yuchsim, we don't treat him that way. Now, Ishtamit say it slipped away from Rav, Hadam Rav Yehuda Rav. It slipped away, it's not from Rav, it slipped away from Rav Yirmiyah, guys. Rav Yirmiyah said that what? That L'Yuchsin, you don't need two. You see over here, one Roiv didn't do the job. Guys, you have a Roiv city of Jews. You find a child. What's the din? Called the parish from Ruba parish. What's this child? Where did he come from? Remember, where did he come from? He's a Jew. Says the Gemara, but qualifying, not so fast. He's not a full-fledged Jew. You won't let him marry what? Yuchsin, that's the line we need. So what do you see? One Roiv won't do the job. So Fred the Gemara, how could Rav Paskin, like Rabbi Yossi, says Rav Yirmi, you see, not like that. You see that what? That one Roiv is not going to do the job. Linyan Yuchsin. Gavaldik Kasha. Good. Says the Gemara, Ishtamit say it slipped away from Rav Yirmi, who asked this Kasha, Hadam Rav Yehuda Rav, the Kroinish Shel Tzipuri have a Maisa. What? It happened the Kroinish Shel Tzipuri, meaning there were two Roivs. Meaning there were two Roivs. And that's why we passing like Rabbi Yossi. In the Havamina, he thought he was only passing like Rabbi Yossi, guys, with one Roiv. Now you're telling me, no, it wasn't one Roiv, it was two Roivs. And therefore, in Yuchsin, we let him marry. Very gishmak. Now we had the line of Rav passing Rabbi Yossi, and Rav Chanan bar Rabba said in the name of Rav that it was Harashah. We had a machlokes in Rav. Rav Chira Rashi said in the name of Rav, and Rav Chanan bar Rabba said in the name of Rav Harashah. In other words, the halacha is not like Rabbi Yossi, but it was Harashah. So now we're going back and analyzing that. Rav Chanan bar Rabba dama Harashah, so it was to let this girl marry into the kahuna. It was Harashah kasha, right? Haman de masliha le masliha. Okay. In other words, according to him, it's fair, right? Like l'chayra Harashah, what with two Roivs, right? What kind of Harashah was this? If you have two Roivs, it makes a lot of sense. So the Gemara says the one that learned this, that it's speaking about that was Harashah, did not learn that there was two Roivs. The one learned that, then there was two Roivs. Any questions? Good. There's a lot of information. So we had, again, in our sugyas, we had sugyas, chazakas, and Roiv. This blot is at least a 3-weeker in yeshiva, I'd say. I say this is 3 weeks in yeshiva. We're not blinking an eye. You got the sheet in the Mekubetz like is this thick. It's the Rishonim wrote on this tremendous amount. There's a sheet that's a sefer called the sheet in Mekubetz. It's just a massive amount of work, tremendous amount. Okay, this is the Daf Yomi. It's Gufa. Let's go back and analyze what we just said before. Gufa, Matzah. Huh? Baruch Hashem. Yeah. Okay. Gufa. Right? Right? When you retire, you won't learn any better. Don't think in your mind. Trust me. You won't learn any better when you retire than you did when you were younger. Your mind is, you have as much patience as you have right now. Think of that. People mistakenly think you'll have more time, you'll have more patience and more yishuv adas. No. I don't think so. And there are yotzim in a klal. I have a brother-in-law who's maybe yotzim in a klal, but me, not me. Okay, anyway, matzah tinoik mushlach. So now we're going. Remember, guys, when I spoke to a gufa, we brought this in as a question. Now we're self-analyzing. The word gufa means itself. We're analyzing what we said above. Matzah tinoik mushlach. You find a child. In Roiv of the Kechav, in Roiv Yisrael, Mechza, Yisrael. Amarav. Leishanu, Rav said after Roiv, Elachayesai to go ahead and give, provide food for this child. Avaliyuchsin like Ushmul Amar, Lefakech Levasagal. Fred Shmuel Hachi, but Shmuel really say that the whole reason is that right? In other words, to go ahead, guys, if you have a wall that falls down on someone and you don't know who that someone is, on Shabbos, you're going to go ahead and clean it away. It's mashma over here, guys. The whole reason is what that you're going to clean away is because you know who the child is. If you don't know, it doesn't make a difference. When it comes to pikuach nefesh, you're going to clean it away. So how can Shmuel say that? Oh, the only reason we're going to clean it away because the roiv goes to Yisrael. Even without that, you're going to clean it away, right? Alakia my the Shmuel Areshit. Learn it on the Resha. In Roiv Kichav, my Kichav, my Shmuel will fakech lavas agal ain't a cane, and right. But when it comes to fakech agal, it's not true. In other words, if we don't know who this baby is and this child is, and a wall falls on this child, when it comes to cleaning away, we don't go after Roiv, and we'll clean away the pile. So, guys, the city is Roiv Goyim. The city is Roiv Goyim. You have this child that was left. So the Roiv says what? This child is a guy. This child's walking along on Shabbos, wall collapses on it, says Shmuel, you'll go ahead and you'll clean away to save the child. Because when it comes to Pikuach Nefesh, we don't go after Roiv. So now question, so what does Roiv help now according to Shmuel? You know, if you're saying the Fakech is a gal, what does Roiv help according to Shmuel? Elakiyat min Shmuel Areshim Nachamol. And Roiv the Kichav my Kichav. Mama Shmuel L'Fakech is a gal. Ain't a cane. And Roiv the Kichav the Kichav L'May Helchasa. Amrav Papa Lachilu Neveles. When it says Roiv the Kichavim, is that if you go after Roiv, you can feed him McDonald's. It's much cheaper McDonald's than McDavid's, right? That's a blast in the past. McDonald's is long way, right? Right. And I just want to make Lenny smile. Anyway, so that it's a lot cheaper. So Nevelis, you have Nevelis, that's a lot cheaper. So since Roiva Goyim, you can feed him Nevela.
You're still required to raise the kid.
A Hesh is after 9 o'clock. You were busy with the chinuch. You'll take care of the kid, Hesh. Now, Hesh, throw out the water, save the kid. Amra Papa, Lachil and Velis. In Roiv Yisrael, if it's majority Yisrael. Lamai Hilchasa. Amra Papa, Lahachsalo Aveda. That if he loses that Aveda, you return it. You can't turn Aveda. It's us to turn Aveda to a guy. You can return it to a Jew. Mechza Yisrael. Lamai Hilchasa. Amay Shlakish Nenizakin. Le'inyan Nezikin. Okay, little Baba Kama over here, guys. Classic case. You got two Jews. He's got a shar, a bull that never gored before. That's called a tam. Pays chatzi nezek. Gores 3 times. Muad pays nezek shalom. You all know that. If it's a guy's gores first time nezek shalom. There's no parsha of chatzi nezek by a guy. The whole parsha of chatzi nezek is by a yid. So mechza will say linyan nezikin. So here's the case. Linyan nezikin. Hechidami. Inema did not get tur di don l'tur di day. Let's say we're a Jew. And our shar gored his shar. Leimalei, I see raya the Yisrael at the shakel. Bring a raya that you're a Jew, and I'll give you. If not, I'm pata. Or I didn't tell you that one. If a Jew goes to the guy, it's pata. So it's tzricha denaki turdi de turdi done. His shar gored my shar. So now he's mechza says he's a yid. So palgam mishale, he pays half like a yid. And you want to say that the guy's not a yid, the idach palga, and the other half, amalu, you tell him, I see raya live Yisrael and bring me a raya that I'm not a Jew, and you'll take the rest. Okay, so that's it. This says, this is. So you want to know Shas Cotton? You began. Let's go what we saw in the first parak, guys. Like you saw in the first parak, you saw the halacha of Basul Nisas, the Kedushin. You saw Hilchah Shabbos. You saw Hilchah Shabbos, right? You had Sheva Brachas, you had Nesikin, you had Roiv, you had Chazakis, you had Migu, right? You have the kitchen sink. And the next parak is really going to deal with Migu. You have Choshen Mishpat, Arachayim, you have everything in the first parak. B'ez Hashem. Right. Tomorrow it's going to be in the afternoon again. Friday will be in the afternoon. For those people, I'm going away on next week. So I'll be saying share from parts unknown, undiscussed location, beneath, hermeneutically sealed in a large mayonnaise jar. But you'll find out the times. Stay alert.